Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So today I want to talk about the investing mistakes to avoid in your 20s and 30s. So for those of you who don't know, I started investing heavily when I was 27 years old and I'm currently 33 years old. So I've been investing for about 6 years. Currently invest in index funds, whole life insurance, and I'm heavily invested in real estate. As you guys know on this channel, I own 90 units of real estate currently. So I'm pretty diversified as in terms of investor. I'm pretty educated in most types of investing asset classes, and I kind of want to share some mistakes to avoid in your 20s and 30s. So the first mistake that you want to avoid is shiny object syndrome, and this is the hardest one to avoid. Like I've fallen victim to shiny object syndrome. I still do. I have to constantly remind myself to avoid shiny object syndrome to the point where I have on my bathroom mirror wall saying avoid shiny object syndrome because I need to constantly remind myself every time I'm in my bathroom, when I brush my teeth in the morning, when I brush my teeth at night, every time I go to the restroom, I need a constant reminder that to, I should not fall victim to shiny object syndrome. And the reason for that is as you start to grow and build your wealth, your mental capacity is limited, right? And I hit my limit, right? I'm working full time, right, as a pharmacy director. Number two, I'm building social media, right? As you can tell, I'm creating a lot of content on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and that's taking some mental capacity. Number three is I'm doing a course in a mentorship, right? So this is kind of a more structured, lecture based learning style. If you find value in that, just check out the comments down below. I have a link to my Making Multifamily Money course. It has a description, a video talking about the course, as well as a curriculum of all of what you'll learn and all the content. Only difference is it's very organized and more structured compared to these videos where I'm just talking off the top of my head. But it's just your capacity is limited, right? And on top of that, I'm renovating two apartment complexes and a mobile home park, right? And what happens is when you hit your max mental capacity and your max mental bandwidth, you start to drop balls, right? It's like imagine juggling 10 balls. Some you'll drop, right? And some balls are rubber balls where it'll bounce back up and it's okay. But some balls are glass balls where once you drop it, it breaks and you can't fix it, right? So for me, I was juggling a bunch of stuff and I was letting stuff fall between the cracks, right? Like example is I didn't shop my insurance around for my 26 unit, ended up paying, overpaying by a couple $1,000. It cost me $1,000. Mistake, right? I wasn't communicating with one of my property managers enough and they weren't leasing out units. That was costing me, you know, potential, $700 per unit in rent, times that by like 5, 6 units. That's $3,000 a month, right? So that's costing me time and it's costing me money because time is money. So, like that's just the nature of the beast. If you do so many things and you max out your mental capacity without additional help, like I don't have any partners, that's when things fall between the cracks. And that's just the nature of the territory and it comes with it. So that's why it's key just to do one or two things and do it well. Because if you have shiny object syndrome, like for me, I'm doing apartments. I'm great at apartments, right? It works with my lifestyle. It's not as hands-on versus a mobile home park. It's so active. I'm so actively engaged in it, and it requires a lot of my time. It requires the most of my money, which is why it's even more work for me because it's costing me most of my time and most of my money. So of course, where my attention goes, where my cash flows, my attention goes. Right. So I'm putting a lot of money into my mobile park. I'm putting a lot of time into my mobile park, which is what's leading me to sell it. And once I sell it, I'm going to double down in apartments, right? Because I have a good system, I have a good team in apartments. It just makes sense for me to double down in apartments once my 20 unit is done and stabilized, and once my 26 unit is done and stabilized. So I am taking a step back. I'm going from 90 units to 50 units once it's sold, but I want to make sure those 50 units are stabilized, cash flowing. I'm done with it. And at that point, I can go buy a 50 unit apartment complex and scale, right? So, that's the key about staying on track, just doing one thing. Owning a lot of apartment complexes in itself has complexity and scale. So you don't want to make it even more complex by having multiple asset classes. Like, I see a lot of investors that go in bigger pockets and they say, I own single family, I own Airbnb, I own multifamily, I own a liquor store, I own self storage, I own mobile park. And yes, that may sound impressive, but to me, when I hear it, I'm like, that sounds depressing. That sounds like a lot of work and a lot of anxiety, right? I don't want to deal with that. So I'd rather just say, remove all that excess and just buy a lot of real estate and apartments or single family, right? Like, don't feel bad. Like, don't have that fear of missing out. Like, you can become wealthy just doing single family homes. If I never went to apartment complexes or multifamily, I could be wealthy, right? Just keep on buying a bunch of single family homes in California where I own five, or keep on buying brand new single family home builds in Huntsville, Alabama, where I own one, right? So I could easily just buy a couple of those a year and scale and become very wealthy. Same with apartment complex, right? I can't own all the apartment complexes in Oklahoma, right? I have a strong team there. I just can buy another 50 units in Oklahoma, another 100 units in Oklahoma, and organically scale there and become very wealthy, right? There's no way I can own all the real estate and multifamily real estate in Oklahoma. So, like, why am I jumping markets to Alabama? Why am I jumping asset classes to mobile home parks? Why would I do self storage, right? Initially, I want to do self storage as well. I'm like, why would I do all that? It just makes absolutely no sense. I just want to go all in on residential real estate, whether that's single family, multifamily, right? Maybe I'll continue to do single family in California, or maybe I'll continue to go multifamily in Oklahoma, or maybe eventually I'll do multifamily in California, right? Once I make enough money and have enough wealth, I'll do both. So, that's what's key. It's just staying on that track and doing one thing for a long period of time. It's not sexy, but the most unsexy things make you the biggest wealth, right? So what makes you wealthy with investing is not, crypto, short term, buying it, hoping to make $100 million real quick. No, it's buying maybe crypto and dollar cost averaging it, or buying index funds and your dollar cost averaging it over the span of 30 to 40 years. It sounds unsexy, right? It's not sexy to say, but that's what I do. It's what works, and it's going to build you wealth long term. Same with real estate. If I can slowly scale my real estate portfolio, whether it's single family home and multifamily, and just stack that year over year over year, that's how you build wealth, right? Like, I'm gonna cash out refinance my 20 unit. I'm gonna pull out all my down payment, all my renovation costs, some money on top of that. That's probably like $300,000. I can use that $300,000, buy, maybe a 30 to 50 unit apartment complex in Oklahoma. Use that as a down payment, 25% down. So, what's that? Around 1.2 to 1.5 million, and I can scale there, right? And I basically own that 20 unit apartment complex of $0 in the deal. Like, it's for free, right? And then you stack it, and then you stabilize that 50 unit apartment complex. You catch out refinance that one. Eventually, my 20 unit, once interest rates go down from 7.5% to, like, let's say 5, I'll do another cash out refinance on that. My 26 unit, once it's done, that's a huge burr as well. So you just keep on stacking these burrs, and the money just snowballs and snowballs and snowballs, right? So eventually, I'm going to be doing cash out refinances in all these apartment complexes like every 3 to 5 years. And you just take that money out, buy an apartment complex. So that in itself can make me very wealthy without much stress added onto it, right? So save yourself the stress, avoid shiny object syndrome, and let me share some examples that bit me, right? So for shiny object syndrome, while I was buying real estate, I wanted to open up an independent retail pharmacy. So I am a pharmacist by day trade, a pharmacy director at a hospital. So I specialize in, inpatient pharmacy is what I call it. And I decided to do an outpatient pharmacy and open it myself. And what I quickly realized was it's high overhead cost, it required a lot of my time. I didn't even enjoy doing it. And it's like, I left the partnership. My partner's still owning the pharmacy, but it's like negative cash flow every month. And they're still operating it since, like, I left in, I think, September of 2021. They're still operating almost 2 years later. And it's still losing money, but maybe they're hoping to sell it and make equity, right? But all that time, all that effort, it just wasn't worth it for me, right? I said, hey, I can make way more money in that same 2 year window using real estate than I can using the pharmacy. And that's when I decided to leave. And that's what I did, right? Literally, at best case scenario, that pharmacy could sell for 1 million. We got it for, I think, 100,000. So that's $900,000. But, I could do the same with my 26 unit apartment complex. I bought it for 500,000. It's going to be worth 1.5, right? and it's more long term, right? It's like I own this 26 unit, I'll make the million, cash out refinance, pull out the money, and still own the asset. So, to me, it's just like so much easier and like more passive for me. So, in that partnership, I probably lost around $50,000 on that deal. I could have just bought a single family home in Huntsville, Alabama for $50,000, or I could have, I only downed like $60,000 for my 26 unit apartment complex that I bought off market. So I could have maybe gotten an apartment complex or use that to renovate some of my apartments more. Another one is I bought an Amazon drop shipping store. So I actually bought this from a very popular finance YouTuber. Don't want to say the name, but it's a very popular finance YouTuber where he's selling an Amazon drop shipping store. And the dream was, hey, it's going to be $30,000. Um, we're going to manage your Amazon drop shipping store. It's also a Walmart drop shipping store. And the concept is it's very passive, very hands off. Um, you don't have to do anything. All you have to do is set up a store. They take care of the rest, right? They'll research which products to wholesale. They'll manage all the day-to-day stuff. They'll manage all the complaints. All you have to do is put your credit card on auto pay, right? So it sounds great, right? Hey, this is passive income. They said we can potentially, each store can make about 5K a month. I just said, oh my God, 5K a month. If I can make 5K a month, then through my Amazon dropshipping store, then that's almost half my pharmacist salary, right? I could use that to maybe leave my day job, or I can use that to help finance some of my real estate renovations, right? So it sounded great, sound amazing. They sell you the dream of, hey, it's passive, it's easy, it's gonna make you a lot of money. But oftentimes, which I learned, and that's why I tell people, hey, like even with the Airbnb arbitrage courses, same thing. Like, hey, it's easy, it's passive, you can make a bunch of money. Reality is no, right? Like literally, like when I opened the store, it was terrible. Like I was like every time they sold something on Amazon or Walmart, I was losing money on each product. And they would sell like, let's say like 10 things. I was losing $20 per like deal. I wasn't making money. And I was just like, whoa, like what's this? Like, um, how am I losing money every month? I'm like, I'm passively losing money every month. If I want to passively lose money every month, I just do my real estate, right? At least in my real estate, um, I'm passively losing money because I'm renovating it. Versus here, I'm just straight up losing money. And it was a very unorganized operation. I get it's a startup, but geez, I mean, I just threw $30,000 out the window. I think my store lost me $7,000 total over the span of like a year. So I was losing $500 a month, and literally, my store got suspended on Amazon, and now they're shifting me over towards a kind of a different model. And I just said, you know what, this isn't worth it. Like I'm losing money on this deal. I lost $7,000 on it, so let's say I'm negative 40,000 all in. And I just said, you know what, forget this. It's not even worth my time, worth my energy. I just want to close my store and move on, right? So I just said it's not worth it. So anytime people sell you the dream of easy money, it's passive, easy, and make a lot of money, most likely the only person making money is the person selling it, not you, right? And I was googling like reviews on Reddit about it, and like every other owner that was on there was, creating posts about it, saying their experience. They're losing money, their store was negative, and it sucked because like if the store made money, you split profits 50-50, but when you lose money, you as the owner have to just eat the cost. And I was like, well, that's not how I want to do business. If someone told me that in real estate, I would say no. So I just said, you know what? Dumb mistake on me. I was sold the dream of easy money without much work and cash flow. And I bit the bullet. I learned my lesson, right? I learned my lesson at 33, and I'm never going to make the mistake again, right? So avoid shiny object syndrome. Stick to one thing and do that one thing for a long time. Let it compound over time. You become the master at it, and that is how you succeed, right? So get rid of shiny object syndrome. If you have to put a sign on your bathroom like me, I constantly remind myself every time I do my 6 month goals, I always write avoid shiny object syndrome. And I became to the point where the only asset class that I might deviate to is triple net real estate, absolute triple net, because it's a little more passive. But even then, I'm not going to do that until I'm like filthy rich, like to the point where I'm retired from everything. I have so much money, I have no idea what to do with it, and I want it to be more passive. At that moment, I'll move to absolute triple net, where you're owning like a CVS, a Walgreens, a FedEx Center, right? So I'm gonna make my wealth through a multifamily, single family, and eventually, maybe in like 20, 30 years, I'll do triple net. right? So avoid shiny object syndrome. I know it's hard, but trust me, I've probably lost $100,000 due to shiny object syndrome between my independent pharmacy, between my Amazon drop shipping store. So save yourself $100,000 and just stick to one thing, right? So if you try something, just dip your toes. Don't put much money in, like what I did. So yes, avoid shiny object syndrome. If you're doing something, you better commit to it, right? So that's what's popular right now, the Airbnb arbitrage courses. I haven't heard many people, making a lot of money from it, but I heard a lot of people making money from multifamily apartments. It takes a long time, but you can do it if you give yourself 10 years. So that's mistake number one. And that's a long mistake number one because this one hits home to me personally, right? I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I lost $100,000 due to shiny object syndrome. And that's not including how much money I lost through my real estate because of the time and I was distracted, right? That cost me money too because my time is over here doing the stupid pharmacy and Amazon dropshipping store. That's taking time away from my apartment complexes over here. So learn from my mistakes. Number two is taking investing advice from friends and family. So unfortunately, it's the best intent, right? They have the best intent, but look at someone's net worth before taking their investing advice, right? And I sound kind of mean, but every time you go to Chase Bank, the guy will say, hey, we can actively manage your money for you. We have these programs. We charge these fees, 1% to 2%. And they said that. And I just usually say, to be honest, I don't let anyone invest my money unless their net worth is higher than mine. And, is your net worth higher than mine? If so, then maybe I'll listen, right? Or if not, then no. Like at this point, I'm doing something better than you potentially. And I'll take your advice with a grain of salt, but unless your net worth's higher than mine, I don't want to, if it hasn't worked for you, how would it work for me? Right? Unless it makes sense. So, if you get investing advice from a friend, say, hey, this is a great new crypto to invest in, or hey, this is a stock that I'm going all in on. You should go in all in too, right? Like take it with a grain of salt, just take it into consideration, maybe do your own research as well. But for me, like I took investing advice from friends and family. They said, hey, this hot new stock, go put your money in it. I bought it. Like someone told me to buy GoPro stock like 10 years ago. I bought it. I lost like $4,000 from it. And after that, I just said, forget it. I'm just going to buy boring stocks like Apple, Amazon, or even now, I don't even do that. I just do index funds where it owns everything. It's boring. Every month I buy index funds and that's it. Right. Once again, unsexy investing long term is usually the best investing long term. Right. So what's unsexy is buying Vanguard S&P 500 index funds every month automatically on auto pay through Vanguard. I do that. That's unsexy. That's not great content. Versus, oh, but it works long term, right? Versus, hey, this is a hot new stock. You should buy it. But you can lose money. So just take over a grain of salt when taking investing advice from friends and family, right? And just know that if it's unsexy, usually that's what makes you the most money, right? Like look at Coca-Cola. They sell a can of Coke. It's unsexy, but they're worth a lot of money. So just keep that in mind. The next number three is investing in things that you do not understand or are too complex. Ooh, this hits home for me, right? Like shiny object syndrome. Amazon drop shipping. I understood it at a high level. Like, yes, I'm gonna buy something, let's say for $10 somewhere else, and I'm gonna sell it on Amazon for $20, and after fees, maybe I'll make $17. So I have a $7 profit margin. I understood that concept, but I didn't understand the business behind someone running an Amazon drop shipping store, right? Because I'm working with an operator. I didn't vet the operator, right? Like, what's their track record? I didn't look at that. I just trusted this financial YouTuber, right? Blindly and thought that it was easy. So, hey, why not? I have $30,000. Let's do it. So I didn't understand the background. Like, what does it take to operate a business well? So I didn't trust but verify to do my due diligence. That's why I lost my money, right? I lost 30,000 and I lost 7,000 on top of that. So I lost about $40,000 for stupid tax, right? I call it the stupid ignorance tax, and I paid it. So don't pay it as well. So if you don't understand it, stay away, right? Or find somebody and learn from somebody who's doing it, right? That's why I offer a Making Multifamily mentorship and course. You can learn from me, and I'm actually doing it. Like I'm in the trenches right now doing a value add, doing a cash out refinance on a 20 unit right now. I'm in the process of selling my mobile home park. I'm in the process of renovating my 26 unit, right? I'm constantly doing it. I'm making content and videos about it, right? So you can learn from me, you can learn from someone else, right? It doesn't matter. But the key is if you don't understand it, learn from somebody who does it to expedite your process. But if you don't understand it or it's way too complex, back away. Like for me, mobile home parks became way too complex. Like there's so many points and processes just to install a brand new home, right? Let me describe the process of installing a brand new mobile home. Number one, you have to get financing from a lender, a line of credit, right? That's a lot of work. 21st Mortgage Cash Program is the popular one. The application process, they got to underwrite the deal, look at the park. How does the park look? Does it look clean? There's a lot of steps. And once you get approved, at that point, you get to reach out to a manufacturer, right? So I use True. And those homes, right? It's about 45K per home to bring in the 3 bedroom, 2 bath, single wide around, it's like 16 by 80, something like that. And, you have to bring it in. And once you order it, they have to make it, right? At that point, they deliver it. And once they deliver it, you have to coordinate an installer to install it. Because the person who deliver it is not going to install it. And once you install it, you got to get a contractor to come and skirt it, build a deck, attach the utilities. And then once that's done, you have to contact the utility company to inspect it to make sure it's within code, and then turn on the electricity. At that point, you can either sell it or rent it, and that requires a property manager to come in and show it, or a salesperson to go sell it. That's like 10 steps I described. And each of those 10 steps is a point of failure and a point of delay. And if it costs you more time, it costs you more money, right? So if it's too complex, forget about it, right? Like single family, multi-family residential, it's easy, right? Apartments, what am I doing? I just come in there, I renovate the unit the same exact way, right? White to light gray, medium gray walls. LVP flooring, light gray. That's typically light to dark gray. I will replace the kitchen cabinets or shaker cabinets from Home Depot, or if I can resurface them and repaint them, I'll touch them up. If I replace countertops, it's typically laminate countertops or quartz. If it's the bathroom that I'm replacing, it's the fiberglass bathtub kit, which is like $500 at Home Depot. The vanity, same thing. I can repaint it or bring in one from Home Depot, and it's cookie cutter. You copy and paste that same unit in all your other like 90 units that I'm renovating, right? So how I renovate the first unit is how I renovate all the other 19 of the units in the apartment complex. It's easy for me because to know. It's easy for the general contractor. They repeat the same process, and it's cheaper because you buy in bulk, right? So it's a win-win. It's very simple. So basically, you buy an apartment complex, which is essentially a box that people live in. You renovate that box the same way, right? There's 20 boxes. I renovate each box the same, and once it's renovated, I rent it out, and I know what the rents are, right? Very simple. And then once you renovate the units, you don't have to renovate it for like 10 to 15 years. Unless a tenant trashes your unit, at that point you get screwed and you have to re-renovate it. But other than that, once you renovate it, it looks good for 15 to 20 years, right? All you have to do is you touch up here and there between tenants as they turn. But other than that, it looks nice. It's easy, it's passive, right? So it's simple. Same thing with single family. You come in there, you renovate each unit the same exact way. Hard part about single family is if you own 20 different single family homes, you're not going to have the same layout. So it might vary a little bit, but literally my apartment complexes, they're the same 1 bedroom, 1 bath, same layout. You just go in there, renovate them exactly the same materials, everything. So that's what's simplicity, right? That's simple. That sounds simple, which is great. But imagine if I own 500 units like that, right? Like, is it going to be easy to me? Like, okay, 100 units I renovate this way, 100 units I renovate this way. I'm like, no, all 500 units exactly the same. And I use the same general contractor too, right? So don't invest in things that you don't understand and are too complex. Number 4 is wanting instant gratification. Ooh, this one hits home for me. Our generation, right? I'm a millennial, Gen Zs as well, a little bit younger. But given social media, everyone wants things instantly, right? You see all these YouTube captions, I'm guilty too, where unfortunately the algorithm wants more captivating titles where you're flexing a little bit more, but it's not overnight success, right? Like if someone sells you the dream of quick and easy money, like through the Amazon dropshipping store, most likely the only person making money is the person selling you something, right? The reality is it takes a long time. Like I've been investing in multifamily real estate for or real estate for 6 years, and I'll be honest, like I built up a nice net worth, but I don't have enough cash flow where I can leave my day job. Right? I own 90 units of real estate. Right? Most people think, oh, Steven, you own 90 units, you must be retired. You must be making so much cash flow that you can leave your day job. Like, why are you even working? Right? Yes, that would be true if I'm cash flowing, right? And it wasn't value add real estate where I'm pumping in money to renovate it. That's the key distinction, right? So, for example, my 20 unit, 26 unit, yes, if I wasn't doing renovations right now, I'd probably be cash flowing a little bit. But the fact that I'm renovating all these units at $5,000 to $15,000 per unit, all my excess cash flow is going to those renovations, but also I'm putting money in my pocket to renovate it, right? So once I renovate those units and I rent them at the higher rates, yes, I'm going to cash flow, right? But what happens is when I raise all the rents, what am I going to do? I'm going to do a cash out refinance where I pull out a bigger loan, pay off my prior loan, pull all this money tax free, right? I'm gonna pull out my down payment, pull out my renovation costs, maybe pull out some additional money on top of that, and then use that money to buy another apartment complex. But if I have a bigger loan at a higher interest rate, what does that mean? My cash flow goes down. So once again, I still need my job for that monthly cash flow, right? So you can't want instant gratification. Like the way I think now is like you have to think in 10-year increments, right? So I started investing in real estate at 27. So I'm gonna give myself till 37, which is 4 more years to stabilize my current portfolio. Um, do cash out refinance on my 20 unit, cash out refinance on my 26 unit, and sell my mobile home park and stabilize those 50 units, right? So 50 units over 10 years, that's pretty good still, right? No one's gonna knock on me. But from 37 to 47, at that point, that's when I can scale, right? Because at this point, I have 50 units, all cash flowing, right? Average cash flow is 200 per unit, stabilized. So 50 units times 200, that's at $10,000 a month in positive cash flow. I could potentially leave my day job or continue to work my day job and then buy, a 50 unit, 80 unit apartment complex and then stabilize that, cash out refinance that. And then at this point, you snowball all your properties, right? You're cash out refinancing every 3 to 5 years. I cash out refinance again, my 20 unit, again, my 26 unit, whatever apartment I buy next, right? So if you give yourself, hey, I want to give myself 10 years of real estate investing or 10 years of creating social media content to replace my day job, then you'll do it. It's those people who, and I see a lot of it on bigger pockets, right? Oh, I bought 50 units of real estate in 2 years and I'm retired, making this much cash flow. I'm like, that's going to be very rare, right? Like the fact that I bought 80 units in 8 months, you can see my last video, I did it, but it's like they're not stabilized and I'm not making cash flow day one. And, like I'm not retired, I'm still working. So like, don't fall into that trap of instant gratification. It takes a long time to build that foundation, but once you do, and I say at least 10 years, right? It may take you 15 years, but so what, right? Even if it took me 15 years, I'll be like 42. And being retired at 42, it's still good, right? And then from 42 to 52, that's when I can scale, right? Just like if you see the exponential growth, it's like flat, and then you hockey stick up, right? So just take 10 years to build that foundation, right? My single family homes that I bought in California, I'm breaking even or slightly negative on cash flow on those, but those are more about appreciation, right? Like I'm negative $200 a month on most of my single families in California, but my first single family home I bought for 800,000. It's worth $1.3 million now, and after 6 years, that's like 500,000, half a million in equity. You divide that over, let's say 5 years for simplicity. That's 100K um, a year. You divide that by 12 months. That's really solid. Like that's maybe like 8K a month in cash flow. But it's asset. It's not cash flow, right? It's more in your equity, not in your cash flow. So that's why they say when you own real estate, you're asset rich but cash poor, right? That's why I have to sell my mobile home park for a profit to get some cash flow so that I can stabilize my current assets and then pay off some other liabilities that I have and set aside for that, like cover my life insurance, my whole life insurance I have. Like I want to set aside money so that it's covered, so that if I want to retire early, I can cover all my expenses and have a good reserve, right? The next one is comparing yourself to others. Ooh, once again, really big topic, right? And they say that comparison's a thief of joy. And even I find myself falling to this. Like I watch Bigger Pockets. I'm like, man, this person only owns, like, I own 90 units of real estate. I bought it in 8 months. This guy only owns 20 units. He bought it in like 3 years. Number one, he's being featured in Bigger Pockets. I have never been, right? I applied. I get rejected. It's okay. But oh, he left his day job. Only owns 20 units. I own 90 units. Like, why am I still working my day job? Right? But like, you don't really, it makes me feel bad about myself. Like, how come he left his day job, but I can't? I own more real estate than him. But like, you have to look at you don't know their full picture, right? Like, maybe his day job is he or she's a waitress making $8 an hour. Versus me, I'm a health pharmacy director. I'm a high income W two. So it's gonna be hard to replace my income versus replacing the income of a waiter. So just stop comparing yourself to others. You know, be motivated of others. Like, it's unfortunate, when you put yourself out there on social media like I am, like, you're the target of hate, like, because people don't like seeing other people succeed because it makes them feel worse about themselves, right? Like, people seeing the fact that I own 90 units of real estate in 5 years while working full time, they'll be like, hey, you're being cocky, you're being arrogant, and they're just hating on you. But unfortunately, they're just projecting their own insecurities, um, and protecting their own ego, right? Like, it makes them feel better to put down someone else, some stranger on YouTube, than to just own up to the fact that, hey, like, I need to improve myself and I can learn from this person. So, it depends, like, what your mindset is, right? Like, can I hate on someone who owns 200 units and making a bunch of money and say, hey, this guy had it easy, he came from money, he doesn't have to do W-2, he doesn't have this, just make every excuse to protect my ego. But in reality, I could just be like, you know what? We have different circumstances, but I can learn something from him because he has more units than me and take that to improve myself, right? Like, I don't care about protecting my ego anymore. Like, whatever, you own more units than me, great, I want to learn from you. I'm happy for you. Versus being like, oh, screw this guy. He had it easier than me. He wasn't a student debt like I was. He didn't come from like a, divorced parents like I did. You can make all the excuses you want. But if anything, that's just, are you saying that? Are you putting someone else down? You're just doing that to protect yourself, right? So, don't fall into that trap, right? Don't compare yourself to others. So what if someone else owns more real estate than you? So what if someone has a higher net worth than you? So what if someone has a higher W2 than you, right? The key is get started today, and you just compare yourself to who you were yesterday, right? Are you better than you are today than you were yesterday? If the answer is yes, you're going in the right track, right? That's the best way you can do it. Learn from others like me or from other people on YouTube, but compare who to you were yesterday. As long as you're better than who you were yesterday, great, right? Like, for me, I hate on myself that, like, man, when I scaled to 90 units the past 3 years, I kind of compromised my health a little bit. I haven't been working out as much, lost muscle. That's the way I de-stress, and I hate on myself. Like, man, when I was in my 20s, I used to bench 200 pounds, deadlift 360 pounds, and squat 225 pounds. Now, today, I can only bench like 155, deadlift 225, squat 135. It's my weakest lift. But, like, yeah, if I can beat on myself to say, hey, you suck compared to how you were in 20, but when I was in my 20s, all I did was work out, right? So now I just need to compare, hey, how I was a day ago, am I better today than how I was a day ago? If the answer is yes and I'm consistent, that's fine, right? Like, don't be too hard on yourself, and don't put down random strangers online. That's what we're falling to today, is you're putting down random strangers you see online to make yourself feel better, right? Just know that people who hate on you, they're just protecting their own insecurities. And it's unfortunate, but once you kind of know that and you come from a place of empathy, compassion, like, I feel bad for these people. Like, you need to put down somebody to make yourself feel better, right? If you guys watch that Netflix show Beef, that's basically the whole moral of it. Like, they were basically hating on each other because their internal lives were a mess and they were insecure and going through a lot of anxiety and stress, and they needed an outlet. So just, have empathy for those type of people. So, key lesson, don't compare yourself to others. Just see if you're improving day to day. The last one is expecting others to celebrate your success. This is another big one. And let me share why. So, a lot of times when you build success, and you share it with your friends that you had in high school, friends that you had in college, friends that I had in pharmacy school, cousins. Like a lot of times they're not happy to hear that like you own 90 units of real estate, you're this X amount of net worth, you're making this much money, you have all the success, because it makes them feel bad about themselves because they think that, oh, we came from the same place, same high school, right? Same college, same pharmacy school. We started at the same place, but why is this guy so much more above me, right? So they start to feel bad about themselves, and they're just comfortable with you, with who you were, right? Because most people, they just think that, oh, hey, this is Steven was this like really shy, quiet guy back in high school, so I expect him to be this shy, quiet guy at 33, like 15 years later, right? Or pharmacy school, oh, this guy was like kind of back in the class, he wasn't that engaged. Like, how is he a pharmacy director now, 10 years later out of pharmacy school? I'm like, but in 10 years I grew so much, 15 years I grew a lot, right? You can't expect me to be the same person. So, when you share success of others, they may not be as happy as you think. They may not celebrate your success with you. Some may, some may not. So just expect it, right? Like if you buy, like, hey, I just bought a house hack, did a full burr, people don't care, or they think you're cocky and arrogant, or they might feel bad about themselves. So just know that, don't make the validation external. So in a weird way, I don't really share much about my success with my close friends and family. Kind of hint here and there, but I know that like people may be rubbed by the wrong way from it. So for me, I'm pretty hush hush about it. But you know, for me, I just know that like as long as I'm improving day by day and I'm improving, um, who I was a year ago, I'm usually, that's enough satisfaction for myself, and I just love to teach people, right? So I'm getting this satisfaction of just sharing my lessons that I've learned through this journey, and that gives me a lot of fulfillment as well, right? So, don't expect for others to celebrate your success, but if you do find those who truly in, are happy for what you've done and achieved, then those friends are keepers, right? Those are your friends that you want to really surround yourself with. And friends who may not celebrate your success, you might want to, limit how much time you spend with them, right? So overall, let's summarize these investing mistakes to avoid and kind of life lessons in your 20s and 30s. Number one is, avoid shiny object syndrome. Number two is take investing advice from friends and family with a grain of salt. Number three is invest in things that you do not understand and are too complex. You want to keep it very simple and something that you understand. Number four is wanting instant gratification. Remember, real estate, building a business, building a social media presence. I'm expecting I'm going to take me 10 years to be successful in any of those, right? Then I'll reevaluate how that went, right? I'll be consistently creating content for the next 10 years. Then I'll look back and be like, was I good or was I not? We'll find out, right? Number five is comparing yourself to others. Remember, just compare yourself to who you were yesterday. Are you better than who you were yesterday? If so, pat yourself on the back, right? Don't beat yourself up. Number six is expecting others to celebrate your success. Find other ways to find that gratification internally. So overall, hope you found value from this session. It's a long rant. If you want to check out the Making Multifamily course and mentorship, check out the link down below. There's a video that shares the curriculum that talks about what the course entails. If you like lecture-based style learning, you'll find a lot of value from it. You can reach out to me directly if you have any questions, and hope to see you in the next video. Thank you so much.